All right, let's start with the first game of the season and our first preview of the 2025 football season. Let's go to Ireland for the first game of week 0, where we have Farmageddon, Iowa State against Kansas State. Kansas State's favored by 3 points, and the total's at 51.5. Those totals are at DraftKings right now. And let's get into it. We're going to have a quarterback battle pretty much, and it's going to be Rocco Beck for Iowa State against Avery Johnson against Kansas State. I think that this is going to be the key. Not only are there two good quarterbacks, but they also can have some turnover issues. At the end of the season, Rocco Beck did have some problems, especially against Arizona State. But I think the real story here is going to be between the trenches, because both teams have a quarterback. They have good quarterbacks. They have good running backs. They have, receivers. Kansas State might have better receivers after Iowa State lost some NFL talent. But I think the story here is going to be within the trenches. Iowa State's not going to have as good of a defensive line, and Kansas State's going to have a very strong defensive line. Both offensive lines look to be good. So more than likely, I give the upper hand in the trenches to Kansas State. If they could stop the run, create some turnovers, I think they could win. Not only cover the game, but win the game. Who can stop the run? We know that Avery Johnson's going to want to run, and with a weak defensive line, even though the Iowa State linebackers are pretty strong, they don't have a good defensive backs to cover, and the defensive line is going to be weak. Avery Johnson, I think he's got something to prove this season. And if you like trends, Iowa State and the underdog has been great in this series in the last, I want to say 5 years, the underdog's 5-0. Not only that, Iowa State's won the last 2 and the last 5 games against the spread. So they have history on their side, but I think that this is the time where Kansas State flips the trend. And what better way to do it than in Ireland to get things going and get the season off to a right start, especially for Avery Johnson and the running back group behind a strong offensive line. I think they could do it, backed up by a great defense. The defensive backs, we'll see how they do, but I think that Kansas State has an overall better team. And I've been pondering this, going back and forth, especially now that the hook is gone and it went from 3.5 to 3. I believe that that's a perfect scenario for Kansas State and Avery Johnson. I love the trenches with Kansas State. I think they finally get it done against Iowa State. It's going to take a different change of scenery and playing on real grass. I believe the Ireland field will be a real pitch. They'll be playing on real grass, so this helps the running game. And I like Kansas State. I'm laying the points. I don't care about the total. If I was to guess, I don't want to guess. I'm laying the points. I like Kansas State. All right, let's get into the games. So next up on the ticket, Fresno State at Kansas. Jayhawks laying 13.5 points. Totals at 50.5. Like I said, we got Enzo here. He's getting a little jealous, so I'm going to still do my best. All right, so Kansas finally is going to be playing at home. They're going to have an actual home game for the first time in at least over a year. So that's going to be great news for the Jayhawks. They'll also have quarterback Jalen Daniels back. Rumors are that he's not healthy. I think he's healthy. He'll be fine. They lose a great running back in Neal, but I still think that Kansas has a very powerful offense in comparison to Fresno's defense. Fresno's basically dealing with a whole new team, new quarterback, almost new everything, new coach. Their coach last year, yes, he won at North Dakota State, a couple national championships. That is impressive, but last year he was a linebacker coach at USC. We know Trojans' defense was not that great. So I think this is a great game for Kansas to be in front of their home crowd, get off to a great start in the Big 12. They have just as good a chance as any other team to win the conference. So I think this is a light number. I got this a few days ago, minus 12.5. It's at minus 13.5. Kansas is taking some money. This is at DraftKings. So I like it. Even if it gets to 14, I thought it was going to close at 13.5. But the way this line's moving, I could see it closing at 14.5. I think this is a big game for Kansas. It's just gonna be too much for this new Fresno team. It's just they lost way too many players, and they're not gonna have enough firepower to keep up with Kansas on the road. It's a tough game for the Bulldogs. I love Kansas in this spot, and especially if you can get them under 2 touchdowns, I like it even more. All right, next game, Sam Houston at Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky favored by 10 and a half. I think it's down to 10 now. Total 61 and a half. Jeff Lebby back at Sam Houston. He was the OC. Now he gets to be the head coach. And against top competition, Western Kentucky, yes, they have a good offense, but how's their defense going to be this year? Probably not great. I'm hearing from CFE, not going to be good. The encyclopedia. I'm going to go ahead and trust his insight on the defense. So I think Jeff Lebby, he's got a little tricks up his sleeve. He doesn't have the best talent just because he hasn't been recruiting there. He loves the up-tempo, air raid. And I think if they could make this a shootout, which they had a good season last year, I think they can get a shootout with Western Kentucky. I love the 10 points here. Whether you get 10 and a half, 10 points, at least 10 points. I love getting 10 points. I like the Bearcats to keep this one close, at least within the number, in a shootout. If you like the total, I would go points. I don't really play totals, but if I was, I would throw a little lunch money on the over here, over 61 and a half. I think the only way Sam Houston can keep up with Western Kentucky if it's a shootout, and I don't see a lot of defense being played in this one. All right, last but not least, one of the most intriguing games of week 0 is going to be Stanford against Hawaii. Stanford opened up as a favorite, 1.5 points, somewhere around there. Now, the Rainbow Warriors are favored by 2.5 points. Will this get to 3? It looks like Hawaii is taking money again, -2.5, -$1.15. Will this get to 3? I doubt it, but it's possible. So I'm going to wait to see how this moves. But right now, I know Hawaii has a really strong quarterback, a young but strong quarterback, a good head coach, Timmy Chang, and they have some great weapons on the outside. They're going to be fast. We don't really know what to expect from Stanford. You know, Andrew Luck's kind of running the show there. He's got his old coach, Frank Wright, as a head coach. But I just feel like Stanford, you know, a couple years ago, this was the hot play. Hawaii had upset Stanford. Stanford ended up beating them by, 7, 10 points. And back then, I thought Stanford wasn't that great of a team, and now it's opposite. I thought Hawaii had a better team a couple years ago, and I'm pretty sure I had Hawaii in that game. I just feel like there's too many people on the Hawaii side, a little trendy dog, if you will. They have the athletes, they have the quarterback, but will they be able to get the job done? I'm on the East Coast right now. I'm not used to it. I think Stanford gets it done. I think there's just too many people back in Hawaii, and I think it's flown too far towards the Rainbow Warriors, and they haven't really proven themselves in a big game like that. And I call it a big game because at the end of the day, Stanford's still, ACC athletes. But I'm really leaning strongly towards Stanford. I just feel like there's just too much hype towards Hawaii right now, and Stanford's the way to go. I feel like they were better than I'm remembering last year. And I mean, they weren't good, but they weren't pathetic. So I feel like by the time it gets to 7 o'clock tomorrow, I'll be sitting with the Stanford ticket. I know some people might want to buy up if you can to getting a field goal. It's not normally my style, paying the extra juice, but you can do it. I think at DraftKings they had Stanford plus. You can only go to 3.5. You can't go to 3. You can go to 3.5 alternate total, and it was -149, I believe. So I don't think I'm going to do that, but I do see myself with the Stanford ticket just because they could be coming in, creeping up, and they're just not getting any respect. And I like teams with some talent that do that. And they got a quarterback. I feel like their quarterback, is just as good, but we'll sell it on the field. So I look forward to watching this game. Stay tuned. Look for us on the website, Instagram, YouTube. I'll put the link below, all the links below, so that way you can follow along. We'll be streaming live all day tomorrow, starting with our pregame show. I'll be cooking breakfast on the Blackstone, making who knows what. But yeah, follow along, subscribe, and let us know what you think about the games this weekend, or if you have any questions. Like I said, I'm on site today, so I had to do a little rapid fire as best as I could. That way we can get this up on social media before the games. Plenty of time so people can look at it. And so, all right, y'all follow along. DDSN.us. Let's go.